This is Tech Talk with your host, Tom Dioria. Tom will spend the next hour making your life with technology a little easier with explanations of the different aspects of today's technology and how it can benefit your home, small office, or enterprise. Now here's your host, Tom Dioria.
Welcome to IMI-TechTalk on this, the fourth Sunday of August 25th, 2011. I hope everybody in the New York listening area is surviving the Hurricane Irene. And we had another interesting event this week. We had a minor earthquake, made everybody a little nervous. So we're on at 6 p.m. in the New York listening area and 3 p.m. in Arizona, and we're live from our New York offices. And we're going to be discussing data breaches cost more than data protection with our guest, Tony Bradley. I'm Tom Dioria. I'm the CEO of Information Methods Incorporated, and together with our weekly guests, our show will help our listeners, whether a business or home technology user, make better use of all aspects of technology. Just in case you're a first-time listener, in our first segment, Tech Talk provides you with a review of last week's most significant events in technology. We start with an increased coverage of New York's technology scene, and we follow this with our industry-wide report, which could contain information on conferences, announcements by vendors, new releases of software equipment, or new contract opportunities. One or more guests followed us from many aspects of industry and business. And if you wish us to consider a topic for a future show, you can email your suggestions to TechTalk, that's TECHTALK, at IMI-US.com, and we'll get back to you pretty quickly. Anytime after our show introduction, please give us a call or send an email message with questions on today's topic or anything else we might be able to help you with. You can call 277-KFNX. That's 277-5369. If you happen to be outside the 602 listening area, call us toll-free at 1-866-536-1100. You can send email questions throughout the show. We'll try and get them on. If not, we'll answer your questions during the week and maybe repeat some of them on next week's show. You can send your email questions to techtalk at IMI-US.com. And we're also being simulcast on the web, so if you can't get to your radio but you want to listen to the show, go to KFNX's website, which is 1100kfnx.com. If you want to listen to a previous show, IMI archives all of those, so you can go to our website, which is IMI-US.com. Click on the Tech Talk button in the upper right-hand corner, and then the archive button, and then you can download or listen on the website to any of the previous shows, send them to your friends, whatever you'd like to do. So please call in any time during the show, and we'll get you on as quickly as possible. First segment's our Week in Review. It's our increased coverage of technology events in New York City and around the world. It's compiled by Dave Brandon and Jose Batista. And I have a bunch of things to tell you. One of the things is don't forget a go bag. So going through the hurricane today, hopefully you had a go bag in case there was a major problem. Go bag is something that has all the essentials that you might need to survive a few days in case it's a big problem, as well as some of your personal information such as medicines, passports, things like that. You can go to OEM's website if you're in New York or anywhere else, really, nyc.gov, and then go to the OEM portion of that, and it tells you all about go bags, things that you want to do. Notify NYC, which is something that'll keep you up to date on what's going on in the city. We also have here from New York City, this month, Time Warner Cable and Cablevision reviewed their franchising agreements with New York City's telecom agency, the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. All of you that listen to the show know that's do it. As part of the agreement, the MSOs have to invest a number of additional services for New Yorkers, including broadband access for underserved areas in the 5 boroughs, equipping public parks with Wi-Fi access, and agreeing to certain customer service protections like credits for missed appointments and outages. The cable companies essentially pay rent for using the city's spaces to offer services, but federal law prohibits the city from taking a franchise fee for more than 5% in revenues. So when contract renewals came up, the city negotiated additional benefits for its constituents, such as the following. Time Warner will partner with local nonprofits to create 40 public computer centers with free broadband access with low-income communities. Cablevision will provide free Internet service to all public libraries within its service area. The MSOs will invest about $2 million in communications infrastructure to unserved commercial and industrial areas, including the Brooklyn Navy Yard. The city's public channels will be increased, and at least one will be in HD. Customer service protections modeled after the 2008 Verizon Vios franchise agreement with the city, such as customer credits for missed appointments and outages, and standards for repairs and service interruptions, and upgrades in the city's institutional fiber network, which is CityNet. That's for the city agencies use that to communicate. So I think that's a pretty good deal. Carol Post, who's the commissioner, and her staff worked out. Deputy Mayor Steele, New York City's EDC, and DoIT announced winners of the New York City Big Apps Idea Challenges. The New York City Economic Development Corporation issued the following news release. Deputy Mayor for Economic Development Robert K. Steele, New York City Economic Development Corporation President Seth Pinsky, and New York City Department of Information Technology and Telecommunication Commissioner Carol Post today announced the 10 winning ideas of the New York City Big Apps Challenge, a competition for the public to submit new ideas for the web, desktop, and mobile applications that would benefit New York City residents, businesses, and visitors. The Idea Challenge, which has opened to both developers and non-developers, was designed to build on the success of the annual NYC Big Apps competition, a contest for individual software developers or companies to create applications utilizing official city data. Winning submissions from the Ideas Challenge will provide a rich resource innovation of ideas that could ultimately be developed into the upcoming New York City Big Apps 3.0 competition, which is expected to launch in the fall of 2011. Challenge posts a global marketplace for challenges and community-driven innovations, powered the Ideas Challenge, and the 10 winners were selected by the panel of judges after voting narrow field to 25 finalists. So, you can go to financial.tmcnet.com and find out who those winners are. Okay, we have a bunch of other things we need to tell you. In a press release released on August 24th, as a letter from himself, Steve Jobs announced his resignation from CEO of Apple Inc. He said, "I have always said there came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple CEO. I would be the first to let you know. Unfortunately, that day has come." Included in his letter, he stated he remained involved with the company as chairman of the board. Jobs also stated he wanted to move along with Tim Cook becoming the new CEO. CEO since 1997, Jobs helped resurrect the Apple brand into an image of high-quality, excellent standards with an appeal for design. A pancreatic cancer survivor, Jobs has been absent from his day-to-day interactions with the company for the last 6 months. In a letter, Steve said, "In closing, I believe Apple's brightest and most innovative days are ahead of it, and I look forward to watching and contributing to its success in a new role." Okay. New York startup Roadify has developed a mobile app that delivers updates from transit agencies and inputs from users on the street. The app has already won accolades for the one-year-old company. In March, Roadify beat more than 50 other developers to win the grand prize, which included $10,000 cash at New York City Big Apps 2011 competition. Program sponsored by Mayor Bloomberg's administration, invites software developers to create technology that improves life in the city. Roadify currently provides real-time information on commuting routes just in the New York area, though the company plans to expand its services to other locations. Scott Kobler, who's the chief operating officer with Roadify, says, while transit information is typically available to the public, it is often scattered across multiple sources. Roadify collects data from entities such as Google Transit, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the New York Department of Transportation to one platform that can be customized for each user. So you can check that out. Roadify is spelled Roadify. And finally, I wanted to tell you that we went to a press conference on Wednesday held by the 9/11 Foundation and the primary builder for Ground Zero. And we're going to make that, there were two presentations. and a tour of the reflecting pools that are being built there. And we're going to do an entire show devoted to that probably on September 11th and let you know what's going on down at Ground Zero. We were going to do a live show from there, but I think we thought better of it. We don't want to interrupt the day. It's a little bit too solemn for that. So we're gonna give you the recordings that we made there and some interviews that we took with some of the developers on the site. I think you'll find that as an interesting show and in keeping with the solemnity of the day. We're going to take a break. We're going to get to our guest, Tony Bradley, talk to you about data breaches costing more than data protection. I'm Tom Dioria. It's Sunday, the 25th of August, 2011. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to IMI-TechTalk on KFNX AM 1100. I'm Tom Dioria. It's Sunday, August 28th, 2011. We're having Hurricane Irene in New York, so hopefully you're all safe and listening to Tech Talk. And as I mentioned to you before the break, Tony Bradley is our guest, and we're going to be talking to you about data breaches costing more than data protection. Tony, thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Do you want to give our listeners a little background about you and what you're doing in Houston, and then we can talk about data breaches?
Sure thing. As you said, I'm Tony Bradley. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for Zakurian. We are a data protection and data leak prevention company, actually based out of New York, even though I'm in Houston. And as such, I'm just out there trying to get the word out to companies in terms of the topic that we're going to talk about today, which is data. You hear about data breaches all the time, and companies don't have the right tools in place, they don't have the policies in place, and it's just so much more cost effective to handle those things proactively, because it gets really expensive once you lose the data.
Okay, so let's start there. What is a data breach? How do you define that?
Well, a data breach is just any time that you are leaking information. It could be information that is stolen. Like you see the headlines all the time now with Anonymous and Anti-Sec and LulzSec, who are hacking into things left and right and posting that information online for the public to see, or for other hackers to see and use. So that's one very blatant form of a data breach. Or incidents like we've had in the past, where we've had attackers break into RSA security and steal the codes for the secure ID, two-factor authentication tokens, or hackers who broke into the Epsilon servers and got the email addresses of millions of people. Those are all forms of data breach. And then there's the less overt form, which is just sort of inadvertent leaking of inappropriate information by authorized users. Say someone who does have access to the information, accidentally including information, in an email attachment or posting something online that they probably shouldn't have. And so, all of those are instances of a situation where a company has information, whether it's their own financial data, their own proprietary information, their own trade secrets, or if it's customer data or account information, that all of that information needs to be protected and secured so that only the authorized people who have a reason to look at it should be looking at it.
Do you feel that this is becoming something that's pervasive, or something that you would classify as an epidemic now in the United States or around the world?
Yes and no. Yes, I think it's pretty much an epidemic. However, I think it's as much a matter of awareness as a reality. In other words, I think that it's been going on more than people are aware of, or more than people would like to admit, but that it's more public now. And in an ironic sort of way, I think we owe a small debt of gratitude to the LulzSecs and Anonymouses of the world, because they have put a spotlight on the problem. I don't condone what they do, but they have illustrated very well just how easy it is to, get past that sort of network perimeter security and get into the servers and get the information. And there's no silver bullet. There's no perfect security. I think that a dedicated hacker with enough time, skill, and resources, could theoretically get to your data anyway. But what all of these data breaches, the high-profile headline news-making data breaches have shown us is that it's too easy, and that companies need to be doing more. Because it's one thing if your data ends up being compromised, after you've done all the things you were supposed to do, and the hackers still get in, at least you did what you had to do. But in most cases, that's not really what's happening. In most cases, it's a situation where the data isn't very well protected in the first place, and LulzSec is just showing that to us.
Tony, do you think that besides the awareness issue, is this something that organizations just need to do a better job of protecting the data, or is it more difficult or more complicated than that?
Well, I think the challenge there is in part raising awareness with companies, with IT admins, with IT management, that it's not really a matter of us against them or you against them. I think a lot of companies still look at it like, yeah, LulzSec and Anonymous, hacked Sony, but that was because, Sony, pissed some people off or whatever. And that as long as, they don't do that, and as long as, that they're safe, that only happens to other companies. And I think that the danger there is twofold. Number one, it doesn't just happen to other companies. Like I said, it just happened to be very publicly happening to Sony, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other hackers out there who are infiltrating your network, even if you think that you're just a small company and nobody's paying attention to you, because the attackers on the outside very often are using automated tools that they don't care whether you're Sony or Joe's bike shop on the corner. The tool is just going out on the internet looking for certain vulnerabilities, looking for certain types of systems, looking for the holes, and when it finds the holes, it's going to infiltrate, whether no matter what size your company is. The other challenge to that.
So that's interesting. So even though the smaller companies obviously have less data, the threat to their customers or clients is equally as high, right?
Well, that's true. And if you think about it from the perspective of the attacker, if I'm the attacker, I want to stay under the radar. I really don't want to be high profile. I want to get in, get the data without you knowing about it. Because as soon as you know about it, then you can raise flags with the customers and raise flags with the banks, so that the information is of no use to me anymore. So obviously, I want to get in there, and I want to get the information and be able to use it. And the other and the B to that is that the smaller companies are much even less likely to have adequate perimeter defense or adequate data protection in place. So they're actually easier targets. So if I'm trying to get customer data like credit card numbers and things like that for either financial theft or identity theft, your small and medium companies are a lot easier target.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a break. We're talking to Tony Bradley about data breaches and cost more than data protection. We're going to get into the data protection and what you can do to help yourself later in the show. Right now, we're trying to get our hands around the problem. I'm Tom Diori. It's Sunday, the 28th of August, 2011. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back after these messages. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to IMI-TechTalk on KFNX AM 1100. I'm Tom Diori. It's Sunday, August 28th, 2011. And we're talking to Tony Bradley about data breaches and how they can cost you more than data protection. And before the break, Tony was telling us about small and big businesses and how to a small business really doesn't make any difference because what these bad guys are trying to do is just get your data. And what do they do with it once they get it? Do they actually steal your credit card information, start charging stuff, or do they sell it off in volume to real bad guys?
Primarily, it's the second one. Usually, the guys who are actually hacking in and getting the information, that's really the extent of their criminal activity, is to get the information and sell it. So there's sort of like two different groups of criminal activity going on there. The one is to get the data and sell it. The other is to take the data and use it. But before the break, I was mid-thought of making the point that the second part of why this is a challenge for companies is that focus on the outside, that it's outside attacker. It's somebody out there who's going to try and do something to the company, when the reality is that the vast majority of data leaks and breaches are occurring because of employees. Some of them, it could be intentional, like, they actually steal the information to give to a competitor, or they take the information with them, when they get fired so they can, use it at their new job, or they just accidentally post the information online, like I was saying earlier. But those kind of data breaches are much more common. The data breach of an employee, either intentionally or inadvertently sharing information.
So the breach does not necessarily have to be just stealing somebody's social security number or credit card information. It could be stealing inside information that a company might have that gives them a competitive edge on another company?
Right. I mean, there are plenty of instances, and there have been actually some surveys too where they've actually asked people, if you found out that you were being let go from the company, would you take data? And a lot of employees say absolutely. They would take whatever, customer information, that they things that they might be able to leverage in a new job. And so that's, and that again is an area where that kind of data should be safeguarded, and the company has a vested interest in making sure that it doesn't just walk out the door.
Okay, so let's talk about what somebody or what a company, small and large, can do to protect themselves. Let's talk the easy solution first, which I guess is putting software or something in place that prevents or attempts to prevent people from getting in and hacking. Isn't that an expensive venture, and wouldn't that cost little companies more than they might be able to afford?
Well, it obviously is an expense, and one of the problems with computer security at all levels is it saves you money in comparison to being breached or compromised, but you're trying to prevent something from happening, so there's no actual return on investment. It's hard to measure because you're spending money to hope not to lose money. There's no way to make money from it.
Well, what's my liability if I'm a small company and somebody hacks in and steals my 100 customers' credit card and Social Security numbers? What is my liability? Am I liable for anything there, or is it just an inconvenience to my customers?
Well, it's a little bit of both, and it's going to vary based on the company and based on the type of information. Because if you're maybe a claims processing company for where you're processing health insurance claims, then you're governed by HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and I don't remember what the second part of the second A is, Act. And so there could be fines. Or if you're losing credit card information, then you're governed by the PCI DSS rules of the credit card industry, and there could be fines. So it is possible to have to incur an actual monetary fine for losing that data. But really, the bigger hit, I think, especially to a small and medium company, is in that that the relationship is the trust factor of customers and what that says. So that is a little bit less tangible. It's a little harder to measure. But if you're a huge company and you have the money, you have the resources, and you can kind of weather that storm. But a small or medium company that loses customers' data and ends up having customers whose accounts are compromised or their identities are stolen, that impact to the trust and to the customer relationship can be much more devastating.
So what are some of the tools that, and are the tools different for small and large companies, that these companies should consider? And if they don't really have big IT staffs, is this something that they would reach out to an organization like yours to help them with?
For starters, any organization should have your sort of like standard baseline tools in place. Your network firewall, personal firewalls, antivirus software, those kinds of things that will at least help block or eliminate many of the kind of the average attacks that are out there. But as I said earlier, you have actually a greater threat from internal employees of either intentionally or accidentally leaking information. And there are you can have tools in place at the network perimeter level that are watching the outbound traffic for sensitive information that can identify, oh wait, this email has a Social Security number, or this has a driver's license number, or this has it looks for those types of things. We have a product called Z-Gate from Securian that monitors that outbound traffic, whether it's email, it could be Facebook status updates, it could be Twitter tweets, but it's monitoring all of the outbound communications across the network to make sure the sensitive information isn't leaving that way. Then we have another product called Z-Lock, which works at the PC level that gives IT admins the ability to lock down USB ports, printer ports, all the ports on the system, because you also want to make sure that people aren't putting a whole bunch of data on a USB stick and taking it with them. But our approach is less draconian. I mean, there's other solutions out there that where you simply lock the port down. It's kind of a black or white on or off thing. Ours gives the IT admin a lot more control to be able to say, well, Tom can't save his information on a USB stick, but Tony can, or to be able to tell which data can be saved, or I can even lock it down and say, well, you can save information, but only on this encrypted USB thumb drive that I issued you.
That's pretty interesting. Now, do you start first with, and I'm going to have to let this question hang until after the break, but do you start with setting up basic policies first, and is that something that you can get out of a book or manual somewhere, or is that something that, in addition to providing the software solution, you can help your clients with? But hold that thought. We have to take a break. This is Tom DiOrio on IMI's Tech Talk on KFNX AM 1100. It's Sunday, August 28th, 2011. We're talking to Tony Bradley about data breaches costing more than data protection. So please stay tuned. We're going to be right back after these messages. Welcome back to IMI's Tech Talk on KFNX AM 1100. I'm Tom Dioria. It's the 28th of August, 2011, and I hope you're all surviving Hurricane Irene and you're all safe, and hopefully you are if you're listening to the show. We're talking to Tony Bradley about data breaches costing more than data protection, and I asked him a question about setting up policies and procedure in an organization, both large and small. But before I do that, my producer is yelling at me because I didn't ask you how our listeners can get in touch with you if they want to follow up.
Okay, well, we can start there. Again, the company is Zecurion. It's Zecurion. You can go to Zecurion.com and find out all about our products and things there. And you can also get our contact info there from the site as well. And I think that's about the best way is just to go to the Zecurion.com website. We also do have a Twitter. It's just at Zecurion, and a Facebook page, which is also Zecurion.
Okay, great. So before the break, I was asking about policies and procedures. What's your recommendation for companies finding out what they should tell their employees?
Well, you had asked, whether that's something you get out of a, manual or a book, or if it's something we help with. And the answer is really both. There is no right answer to that. I mean, it's up to each company to sort of figure out what is or is not sensitive information to them. And there are some baseline policies that are, baked into the product to be able to recognize Social Security numbers, driver's license numbers, those types of things that are more or less obviously sensitive information. But then there's, could be other data, like, if you're Coca-Cola, you obviously want to protect that secret recipe. And it would be up to the IT admin to figure out, to come up with a policy to put into a product like Zlock or Zgate that knows how to identify that. And we use different techniques. I mean, we can do like document fingerprinting that basically creates a unique signature for a given file, and the product can then be on the lookout for that signature. So there's a number of different techniques that are used, but as you pointed out, I mean, step one is to just have a policy. I mean, no matter what size company you are, you should at least have some sort of policy that says, you are or are not allowed to send out, this type of information, or, whether or not you're allowed to save data on a USB stick, whether or not you're allowed to take unencrypted information, off-site in a laptop. Those types of things should be governed by a policy in the first place. Then you can use products like Zlock and Zgate to help enforce those policies.
Going back to the different products, are they based on, or pricing based on the size of the organization, or is Coca-Cola going to play the same price as IMI would be for the same type of protection?
Well, it's going to be based on, licensing volume in terms of the number of clients that are being addressed. So it is going to vary by company. But, to get back to sort of the title of the topic we're talking about in terms of the data protection costing less than the data breach, the Poneman Institute did a survey earlier this year, I think sponsored by Symantec, but where they figured out that the average data breach in the United States ends up costing $7.2 million. Now, granted, that's an average. You have a lot higher and a lot lower, but it breaks down to an average of $214 per individual account or individual record that's stolen. So even if you just have 100 customer accounts stolen, based on that $214 figure, you've already just spent $20,000. And so right there, you're already, sort of above the ballpark, depending on the size of your company, for what it might cost you to have purchased Zlock and Zgate and implement them. And again, I mean, I can't really take an exact figure because it's going to vary so widely, but basically we're talking about spending thousands or maybe tens of thousands of dollars to implement protection that's going to save you from having to spend hundreds of thousands or possibly millions if you're breached.
Now, Tony, do you find that security is more of a problem if it's a wireless environment than a wired environment? Is that something that we should take into consideration when we're talking about protecting ourselves from data breaches, or is it all the same problem? That's a question that Linda just gave me. So,
really, I think it's more. It's pretty much the same. I mean, I think that's a whole different type of problem with wireless. I think that is also a problem. But a lot of these breaches that you see when it's LulzSec and Anonymous and these guys, I mean, we're talking about people who are sitting in their living room in London who are hacking servers in Tokyo. So it's not like they're doing it over the wireless network. They're just doing it because these things are available from the internet.
Now, is this something that once I don't want to say take care of it, but once I address the issue, I'm done, or is this something that I need to constantly be vigilant about?
Well, I will answer that by saying there is nothing in security where you can just do it and be done. So it's always going to be incumbent upon the company or the IT admin to at least be paying attention, to the tools that they've put in place. So hopefully, if you've got the right tools in place, those tools are doing their job, and you can sleep easier at night. But it's not a silver bullet, so you can't just implement it and then forget about it. One thing that we haven't actually even made public yet, so I'll announce it here, that very soon we're going to be implementing a promotion for our customers that's basically going to allow them to save 80% off of what our normal costs are. Because what we're going to do is have our customers just buy the 1-year support plan, and we're going to throw in the product licensing for free.
Oh, so that's pretty good. And is this something that they're going to need their own IT staff to implement, or is this something you guys come in and help with?
Well, we definitely have support personnel that can help. Our products are very simple. Even if you have multiple products, Z8 and Z-Lock, and we also have Z-Server, they're all controlled from a single console window, so you're not trying to juggle 3 and 4 different things. And even though you can't just install it and forget it, you can pretty much get it up and running, and then just kind of keep an eye on it. You don't have to have a dedicated IT guy whose job is to sit there and watch that all day.
Okay, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Why don't you give that website information again and leave our listeners with one thought on data breaches costing more than data protection.
Okay. Well, once again, if you go to Zekurion.com, it's Zecurion, you can learn more about our products. You can learn more about the company. You can learn more about this upcoming promotion that we're going to be running. And again, I just ask everyone to keep in mind, what your company's reputation is worth, and how costly it can be to lose your customers' trust, and weigh that against the investment in products like Z-Lock and Z-Gate, and I think it becomes a no-brainer decision.
Tony, thanks again for being with us. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Next week, we're again going to be live from our New York offices, partially. I'm going on vacation next week, so our producer, Taylor Redden, will be doing a current week in review, and then we're going to give you a best of Tech Talk with Tom Dioria. And then the following week, which is September 11th, the 10th anniversary of the attacks on New York City, and also Washington, and what happened in Pennsylvania. So we're going to do that show I mentioned at the beginning of this show. We did some interviews this week with the people that are creating or recreating Ground Zero, and we're going to play that for you on 9/11, and I think it'll be a very special show, and something which will pay homage to those that gave their lives in that attack. I want to thank Terry Ruggiero, IMI's president, Dave Brandon, and Jose Batista for our week in review. Taylor Redden's our producer, and Matt Campagni is our executive producer. And, of course, in 115-degree temperature Robert Bombach from the production department of KFNX keeps us on the air. Thanks again for listening, and please don't forget to tune into Tech Talk next week at 6 p.m. in New York on KFNX AM 1100. Remember to send us your suggestions for future shows or ask us questions by sending an email to techtalk@imi-us.com. Have a great week. Survive the earthquakes and hurricanes that we have here, and thanks again for listening.